Empires. Up until the end of World War II and the advent of the United Nations, empires were often the pinnacle of organized human society, bringing together people of various origins and creeds and mashing them up all together under one political system. This, of course, occurred mainly through the use of force. Lots and lots of it. Empire builders sought to create the largest empires they could, carving out swaths of territory to proclaim their own. Across the planet, empires rose and fell, but at any point in time there was always the largest, and you, dear viewer, are about to find out which empire was largest in any given year. Before we begin, it is imperative to note that the term empire will be used quite loosely here, and will more accurately represent any large, organized political entity. While I'm sure some people would like to go back all the way to the formation of the Earth, we have to start at some year, and that year is 550 BCE. There had of course been empires before this point, however this is really when empires started to get big, and I mean big. And the first empire to do this was the Achaemenid Persian Empire. This empire, founded in 550 BCE, was the largest ever seen on Earth, coming in at a whopping 5.5 million square kilometers. Many of you may already know this empire as the one with that really weird looking dude in movie 300. Nevertheless, in 550 BCE, Cyrus the Great took over the remains of the crumbling Median Empire before going on to conquer the Lydian and Neo-Babylonian empires, then moving into Central Asia to conquer it but dying in the process. His successors added on Egypt, then lost it, then added on again, and at one point the Persian Empire controlled a staggering 44% of the world's population. However, all good things come to an end, and in 330 BCE the Persian Empire met its demise at the hands of a young new hotshot straight out of Macedonia named Alexander the Great. After his father Philip did the hard part of building up Macedonia from a backwater landfill to the most powerful fighting force the world had ever seen, Alexander took a look at the Persian Empire and decided that it was nice and that he should have it. In a tale well known by Class 6 amateurs and pros alike, Alexander marched all the way through the Persian Empire, scoring victory after victory and making it to India before his troops decided they'd have enough of his multi-year border-expanding, empire-building ways and just wanted to go home. A few years later, in 323 BCE, Alexander died, thus ending his empire and giving rise to a period in time known as the Diadochi? Whatever, which is just a complete mess to deal with, for 20 years, which brings us to 303 BCE and the largest of the Macedonian successor states, the Seleucid Empire. Founded by the general Seleucus Nicator and fresh off a loss to Chandragupta Maurya's Indian troops, which he turned into a swap involving his daughter in marriage for 500 fully trained and battle-ready war elephants. What a deal. Seleucus conquered as much of Alexander's empire as he could, with his own empire eventually controlling almost 4 million square kilometers of Alexander's 5.2. This was the largest empire on the planet until 261 BCE, when it was surpassed by an old friend, the Mauryan Empire. This empire was founded by Chandragupta Maurya, who conquered major parts of the Indian subcontinent, then later pieced out and renounced life to become a Jainist monk. It was brought under maximum extent by his grandson Ashoka the Great, who clearly read his grandfather's autobiography and decided to copy-paste as he began his reign through bloody conquest. Then after seeing over 100,000 examples of what violence looks like, he decided to religion it up and stop the conquests and start the peaceful governing. While peaceful governing is nice and all for those within an empire, it doesn't lend itself well to staying number one, and so in 213 BCE, the Mauryan Empire lost that place to the expanding Qin dynasty in China. The Qin dynasty emerged victorious from the Warring States period, during which many houses vied for control Game of Thrones style. The Qin dynasty is hailed as the first imperial dynasty of unified China, as well as its founder Qin Shi Huang being the first to label himself emperor rather than king, a title that would define Chinese leadership for millennia to come. However, as the Qin dynasty did make many changes to China and define it for the next few thousand years, there is usually a second after a first, and though the Qin became the largest empire on the planet due to their conquests in southern China, they only lasted for 7 years, and the new blood came not from without, but from within. More specifically, from rebel scum within China, who, being dissatisfied with the Qin leadership, sought to overthrow the government. Perhaps the Qin may have done better if they'd spent money on the real army instead of a fake one, but nevertheless, the Qin dynasty fell, the Han dynasty rose, and the world had a new largest empire. The first few years of Han leadership were focused on consolidation of power through civil warfare, and as such it left a vacuum in areas of China that the soon-to-be largest empire would gladly fill. A longtime enemy and nomadic invader of China, the Xiongnu Confederacy in 199 BCE finally took large enough chunks out of China as well as classic steppe areas to become the new kings of the mine is bigger than yours world. The Xiongnu Empire was founded a mere 10 years prior to taking top seed by Modu Chanyu. His accomplishments brought the empire to around a total 9 million square kilometers, the largest ever seen to that point. Modu made the Chinese enter a marriage and tributary relationship with the Xiongnu that lasted many decades after his death, until the Chinese decided to fight back. Eager to push back the nomadic invaders, control more northern land, and gain more access to the Silk Road, the re-energized Han dynasty waged a war against the Xiongnu in the latter half of the 2nd century BCE and was very successful in doing so. On a quick side note, the Silk Road is not actually one long road from Europe to China, but is a collection of trading branches, and the Chinese expedition led primarily by this guy, were interested in connecting to the Persian Railroad that was founded during the, you guessed it, Achaemenid Persian Empire. Side note aside, the Chinese expanded, the Xiongnu retreated, and around 107 BCE the Han Dynasty was once again the largest empire on the planet. There was a brief intermission to Han rule when Wang Mang and his cult of personality declared himself emperor and founded the Jin Dynasty, but he lasted a mere 14 years from 9 CE to 23 CE before being besieged and overthrown by literal peasants. That's gotta hurt. Wang Mang died in the siege, and the second act of the Han play continued, now known as the Eastern Han Dynasty. The Han period of China is hailed as a golden age in Chinese history, yielding significant economic growth with the help of the new Silk Road access. The Chinese also created one of the most important inventions of the time, paper. The Western Han Dynasty peaked at around 6 million square kilometers, while the Eastern Han grew to about 6.5, adding in regions of modern-day Vietnam and Mongolia. Unfortunately for the Han Dynasty, empires don't have the best immune systems, and it caught a severe case of the I'm not happy with your governing flu. It's difficult to pinpoint when and how much of this flu the Han Dynasty acquired, as it accumulated slowly, but it's safe to say that by 184 CE the Han Dynasty lost its position at the top of the table. This paved the way for a new, but already quite old, empire to claim its spot at the top. Stay tuned, because something is coming.